Welcome to the Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 314, Snap AV. This is our live show where we discuss the ins and outs of running your computer repair business. Our show today is brought to you by Instant House Call. Remote support is easy for you and your customers to use. This is a must-have tool with features like on-demand for your break-fix customers and unattended for managed services. You can do automatic repairs with the auto repair built-in software, and it will save you time and money when you're supporting your customers. Check it out for a free trial at instanthousecall.com. Use the offer code PODNUTS. And also buy FreshBooks, the simple pain-free invoicing solution for freelancers and small business owners. For a 30-day free trial, just go to freshbooks.com/PODNUTS. Enter PODNUTS in the How Did You Hear About Us section. All right, let me introduce the co-host with us today, and that is we have John Dubinsky from the Maven Group. John, how you doing?
Jeff, I have you 5x5, and frankly, every day is perfection. So I'm glad to be here.
Amen, brother. All right, and also joining us from none other than Snap AV, we have Scott Normand. Scott, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Awesome to have you. All right, let's go ahead into our tips and tricks and stories session. And John, this is your favorite, and since you're here, I'm going to give it over to you as the number one.
All right, I've been called out a little bit on the last couple of weeks that I've been slacking. So Jeff, whatever you normally do when the adults are talking, go ahead and do that, and I'll jump into my tips of the week. My first one is a little life hack, and it's just one of those things to make your day a little bit more enjoyable as you're running around fixing everybody else's problems on the planet. Jeff, you and I have always had this little fun thing where we're looking for the ideal shoe, and all I have to say is hoka one one. So if you don't know what I mean, I'll put a link in the show notes. If you're a runner, you probably know what I'm talking about, but I have found literally the most comfortable shoe that I have found. And hoka one one is the name of the company. If you see it written down, it looks like hoka 11. And it literally means fly over the earth. And man, they are really freaking comfortable and just a joy to wear all day long. So if you have any foot problems, knee problems, hip problems, anything like that, jump on board and grab a pair. The next little tip I have is a product called Firewall App Blocker. It's by a company called Sortum. It's on version 1.6 right now. This is just a simple little program, and let's see, about a week ago, I did a bunch of server updates, and I don't know what happened, but all of my Windows firewall settings on my servers, after I did the updates and I rebooted, were defaulted back to normal. So that caused a little problem for me on Monday morning because I didn't check that after I rebooted. The cool thing about this is this little app lets you do a right-click add to the Windows firewall and a couple other cool features in there, so check that out. That's Windows Firewall App Blocker by Sortum. And I'll put that in these show notes and the chat as I normally do. My next tip goes out to a shout out to Mike Wise from Clockwork Networks, who was on the show not too long ago, I believe. He brought to my attention a nice tool called the Gca Cybersecurity Toolkit. Frankly, I'm not even going to expand on there. You should just go and check it out. If you're doing anything with DKIM, DMARC, SPF, cybersecurity, anything like that, they have a bunch of very cool tools that are 99.9% free. So that is really great, a really great tip. Thanks, Mike. Shout out to you. Next tip I have is a little bit of news in the industry. Did anybody hear that Barracuda bought Avast RMM? The cool thing I thought that might happen there is if you are a Barracuda user, meaning their switches, routers, and perhaps their backup, maybe you get some cool integration there. I'll put a link in the show notes as well as the chat if you want to look into that. Speaking with a great partner here, Snap, I thought this was pretty interesting. I rolled up on it on Reddit. It's called MSP RMM Security. And really what it came down to is this big discussion about the things that have happened maybe in, a bunch of RMM platforms lately. Kaseya, Ninja had a little bit of a flaw. Last year, SolarWinds did something with the remote that sent out a bunch of data that it shouldn't have. But the premise is there's one line I want to read from Reddit that I thought was really cool and this is from somebody else in quotes, "Doesn't it suck that you can do your absolute best in being diligent with security only to have a massive hole that someone else that really doesn't seem to care can't patch?" And they're discussing things like 2FA and SolarWinds doesn't really work like it's supposed to and things like that. It's just an interesting article and just something that was really thought-provoking. So you'll get some links in the show notes there. Bear with me, two more really quick. I thought this was funny and we can all laugh. Here's a cybersecurity mental health warning. Basically, a new study has found that those of us in the industry dealing with cybersecurity has revealed that most of us are either on the verge of some sort of breakdown or high stress, or 1 in 6 CISOs now medicate or use alcohol. So I thought that was really cool. So great industry to be in. And finally, a little fun, if you have the clients that you have a good relationship with that you might want to have a little fun with. I found a Vimeo video, and it's called Put Your Dongle Away. And I'll put a link in the show notes and all that. But it's a fun video. It's pretty cool. Actually, I'm not going to put it in the chat because knowing our audience, we'd lose everybody watching immediately. So it'll be in the show notes. So there's your tip to get to the show notes. Thanks, Jeff. Back to you. I appreciate the time.
No problem, man. Awesome as always, and appreciate your long list. But it's always a good list, John. So no problems there.
Go as fast as I can, Jeff.
Yeah, it's all good.
Time is money.
Got nothing but time. All right, Scott. I was asking you before the show. Do you have any tips or tricks or any type of quick stories that you want to relay during this time? If not, we'll move on from there. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to talk about a little bit about managed power. I mean, for those of you who aren't using managed power, it's really a game changer. There's quite a few people doing it. You see a lot of stuff online, Amazon of little power reset devices. But being able to control the power to your devices can save you a ton of money and time on remoting equipment, remotely rebooting equipment. And I would just encourage you to check it out. We've got a product at Snap AV. We call it the Watt Box. I can tell you more about it, but it's just a great way to manage your devices and be able to reboot things that lock up, so you don't have to roll a truck and expensive service calls.
And I'm going to piggyback off that before I go into mine. And that is, if you have not used a Watt Box as of yet, and I've got a 12-port Watt Box here in my office, you can do simple things like, I don't know, it recycles and actually resets my modem, which obviously my modem's not going to do, it doesn't have the power to do that on its own, but I can get a recycle every week so that it's brand new. It's, you take away the problems from being able to reset stuff. You can do it remotely, and it's a great tool to have, and they're really not that expensive. It should be something that you're using for your customers, because like Scott said, it's better than rolling a truck for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of those things where once you have it, you're like, wow, I didn't know it could do all this. You don't think of all things it can do, but these devices can ping devices on your network. They can ping WAN addresses, URLs, and you can tell it to intelligently reboot things on your behalf and send you a notification that it already did it, and so your customer knows what's happening on their site. But one of those devices that really can do stuff that you wouldn't even realize until you got one in your hands.
Awesome. And I'm sure we'll hear more about that later. And again, if you haven't tried one, I think that's how you guys kind of roped me in. It was a CompTIA a few years ago, 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, you won one or got one or somehow.
No, they were giving them away. All you had to do was sign up.
Yeah, and that's right. Yep, we want to get them in your hand.
Here's a funny thing about that, Scott. Little side story. So I had this thing brand new in the box, and we always like the new shiny things, and we're going to use it, and it sat in a box. John, where is that right now? That one that was given away to me? Yeah.
I have it. It's on deployment with 4 others at one particular client. So yes, thank you very much.
So it wasn't until I actually bought a 12-port in my office that I actually used it and went, why haven't I been using this the whole time? So
yeah.
I got to strap on my Snap AV story, because I remember when we went to CompTIA and met everybody there as well. But my Snap AV story started with My Digital Shield, because back then they used to have a VPN type connection, and that's how we found out about the Arachnus routers, because they were a My Digital Shield partner back in the day. And I won't spoil any of the other story, but I mean, yeah, it's a neat story how we got connected with Snap and Arachnus and IL8 back in the day.
Yep.
Very cool. All right, so my personal tip this week is basically going to be along the lines of doing a removing data from one computer or moving it over from one computer to another computer. And that is, turn OneDrive off. I ran into this problem normally when I set up a brand new computer, and usually for a residential customer. Most of the time, I'm doing the initial setup, so I will do a local account before I will do a Microsoft account, because it screws all kinds of things up. Well, I wasn't paying attention. This person had been actually using their brand new laptop for a few days before they brought it to me. And I looked at it and said, "Oh yeah, they do have a Microsoft account. They must have signed up on the initial, Microsoft gets you." And so we are trying to figure that out because they wanted to use Office 365, which I said, "Yeah, that's fine." So, anyways, OneDrive was on. Well, OneDrive without Office 365 obviously is only going to give you 5 gigs of information that you can back up. And there's already certain things like documents and things that are pointed to that. So when you're transferring data from one computer to another, make sure that OneDrive is off, because I had all kinds of problems that I ran into. Not that they weren't fixable, they just cost me a lot of time and frustration. In OneDrive was full, but it was still trying to back stuff up. So it was kind of caught in this middle ground of I'm not really sure what to do, as Microsoft products normally do when they run out of any type of space or power, etc. So, anyways, turn OneDrive off, and then always and I've always done this myself, is I will go back in, and the Microsoft account usually is one of the latter things that I will actually set up, even after I've done all the updates and everything that needs to be done, just so none of those products cause any problems before I get the system up and running the way I like it.
Hey, Jeff, when you're doing your data dump and maybe you're using Fabs, do you copy the OneDrive folder, or do you let OneDrive just propagate to the new machine? Because a lot of times in Fabs, obviously, you can ignore the OneDrive folder if you want.
So, so I'm a little old school, and I'm glad you asked that, John, because what I will do for simple, I do a Fabs auto backup, so I back up everything. But I also know that a lot of that information, and they had a Carbonite backup that I was gonna, and we'll talk about that real quick too. But one of the things that I do is I just take the folder of information from the Fabs auto backup, which has everything, most of the stuff which I'm going to delete. But in the past, it's always been easier just to move that whole file folder that's backed up onto the new machine and put stuff back manually. So again, a little old school, just because Fabs works awesome to put it even from a like a Windows 7 machine to a Windows 10 machine, works flawlessly and saves you a lot of time. I'm an old curmudgeon when it comes to that. I just like to do things where okay, I'm moving this stuff to this folder. I make sure that it's all there. I will even look and match the sizes of the files up to say that, hey, here's my target, or here's my target file, and it's this size, and here's the source file and it's this size. And yeah, they match. So because I'm not going to sit there and look through everybody's pictures and documents and etc.
Can I go down a rabbit hole on this one?
Absolutely.
Just on my little fear about this. So I'm totally with you, because I'm old just like you, and a curmudgeon and grouchy and hate everybody. Anyway, I digress. So really, but my thought was, the one reason I stopped doing it that way and letting OneDrive do it is I'm wondering what OneDrive is doing in the background with whatever it's writing temporarily, or however it's marking a file that it is synced, or however it's marking a file that it should be local or just in the cloud. That's what scares me about moving the data over using Fabs, or just manually copying it all manually and I don't know if one way is wrong or not. That's just my thinking. And maybe I'm bunk, because I've been bunk before, but
you got to do what you're comfortable with and what makes sense for you at the time. And it's just like Carbonite. So I was transferring. So when you move a Carbonite account from one computer to another, you have the ability. Number one, I need to log back into the account and move it from one computer to another. No big deal. Couple switches a button, download the program, and it goes on there, no problem. But you have two different options. You can either recover all the data from Carbonite and basically download it to the computer, which in some senses may have been faster, because we're talking about there was over 300 gigs of data. Now, again, most of it not being used. I probably only moved over 225 or something like that, because the rest of it was just stuff that was being used for making videos and audio and stuff for skating and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of the stuff I knew wasn't needed, but I basically had to tell the customer, hey, we can either pull this all down from Carbonite, or I can basically just have it where it'll basically resync if I have the files in the same directory. In other words, all the document files and all the video files and all the music files and all that kind of stuff will sync once you turn Carbonite back on. And so it's not actually doing a full upload. So maybe it saves time one way or the other. I'm not really sure. I'm just more comfortable with doing it that way. So that's the way that I do it in those particular situations. And again, we've talked about this before, John. From a residential standpoint, there's a lot of times where The residential customer they're a one-off. There is no standardization. There is no, hey, we're using this product and that product, and we've got to make it work to a certain extent. Now, I also did say, I think I said this last week, I know there's people out there that will take pictures of the icons that are on the customer's computer. Yeah, don't do that. The desktop actually has one icon on it. My Get Remote Support icon sits on the desk. That's it. Everything else is gone. So it's put in the document folder. And I tell people that when they come to pick their computer up, it's in the document folder. It's over here. I put everything back where it's supposed to go. I said, I did move all the stuff from your download folder, but I just want to let you know, not everybody looks in there when they're backing things up. I do, and my programs do. So you need to make sure that any of that stuff you don't need in there, get rid of it and move the files that are needed, because there was needed I could see there was needed documents in there. Move it from that to documents folder for tax purposes, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Yeah, I can't argue with that and with any of that. And I would suggest it's 100% right. IT Pro in the chat brought up a great point too. Internet speed is a good consideration. And then the other thing I would toss in too, if you're rocking Windows Defender as the AV, maybe a lot of your home users are, or even corporate users are. Remember, OneDrive can now be tied into Windows Security as sort of a ransomware data recovery as well. They have that feature too. So, there's just a lot of, it's just funny how it used to be we just copy data over back in the day. Now there's all these considerations. So, interesting point. Great tip, Jeff.
And I'm going to IT Pro Adam in the chat room just said he said no recycle bin. All of my most needed files are in a recycle bin. I learned from my users. And I tell my customers this straight away, if you use your recycle bin for keeping files in there, they're going to be gone. Now, again, do I back that stuff up? Yes. Do I put it back? Absolutely not. Because I want them to know that the recycle bin is not where you store files in your system.
You guys actually take that into consideration?
I do, just because there have been people who've, hey, where'd all my stuff in my recycle bin? Now, like I said, when I give the computer back to them, there's nothing in a recycle bin, but I do back all that stuff.
Oh my, no.
Yeah.
Okay. And I thought I was the nice one out of it.
I'm not a jerk. I'm not a jerk all the time.
That's not true, but carry on.
Okay. All right. Well, great information all the way around, and thank you for piling in on that. So good information. Hopefully everybody will get something from that, and just things to remember. Again, it goes back to one tiny little thing that reminds me of every time I do this. If I was using a checklist, I wouldn't have these problems. Anyway,
it just makes me think of all the considerations that we now have to consider in any move we make.
Yeah.
Where it used to be in Windows XP, it's just everything is right there. There it is. Then it's sort of changed to 7, moving up. Now we have all this folder syncing. So it's just an interesting journey we're on.
Exactly. So always something to learn for sure. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break before we get into our main topic, which I'm excited to hear about, and I don't want to sit here and take all the time. But that is a very important event that's coming up, and that is TechCon Unplugged, September 20th through the 22nd, 2019 in Grand Rapids, Michigan, right in John's backyard, about 2.5 hours away from me. And here's what you're going to get. You're going to get all meals and snacks at the event because we want you to be well fed so you can learn. We're going to have dinner on Saturday night at Dave & Buster's along with a game card to enjoy the activities or just hang out and talk shop, talk personal life, whatever you want to do. We want to keep the community together so that we can learn from each other and take that time, because what we've learned is a lot of times you learn things actually outside of the structured event just by talking to your buddies, in and outside of the business. So that's a great way to do that. And then also we're going to have some great community invested vendors that are going to be there to share with us. And if you want to see who all that is, you can go to the website, and I'll give you that in a minute. And also we're going to have good, wholesome IT content that we're going to provide you with the information that you're going to be able to take back to your business. And the one thing that John always talks about is the one thing he knows for sure is he doesn't know everything. And for John, that is 100% true. Not so much for other people like myself, but for John, it is 100% true. So no, we take that to heart. And the reality is we can all learn something from everybody, no matter if you've only been in this business for a year or even less than a year, or sometimes even 20 plus years, a lot of times we get stuck in our ways and we only do things one way because that's what we're used to. So go to techconunplugged.com, get your tickets. It's only $199, and that's basically covering the food. And it's basically, like we said, we want to have you well fed. And your hotel room is $102 a night. Even if that's too expensive, hey, split it with somebody. It's right next to the airport, easy to get to, easy to drive into. You're not going to pay for parking. You're going to have easy access from the airport. We'll have shuttle service that will get you to there. And we're just going to have a great time. The longest walk that we have is a 6-minute walk to Dave & Buster's. And if you don't want to do that, we will provide transportation. We'll have plenty of cars there to get people back and forth, no problem. So anyways, hope to see everyone there. Go get your tickets today, techconunplugged.com.
Yeah, it's a 6-minute walk if you've had 3 beers already.
Okay. All right.
So
with
and the wind is in your face.
With traffic signals and everything. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get into our main topic. And that is we're going to talk about the company Snap AV. And to start that off, we've got Scott Normand. And Scott, if you could tell us real quick, kind of first of all, what is your job at Snap AV? And then we'll kind of get into a background story.
Yeah, definitely. So my title is the Commercial Market Director for Snap AV. And at Snap AV, we serve a wide range of customers, and we have a wide range of products. And so we actually think about things in terms of markets. And so we have kind of 4 big markets that we serve. One of those is our residential home AV market, and that's probably our biggest market. It's kind of where we got our start. And then we also have a large Pro AV audio. And when I say AV, I'm usually referring to audio video equipment. A Pro AV, which is commercial audio video. And then we also have a large IT datacom market, as we call it. So this is IT dealers, MSPs, datacom dealers, telecom, all those. And then we also have a security market. And so my job there is to manage the commercial market, which is inclusive of IT, datacom, and Pro AV markets. So all things that roll up to that financial objective for us roll through me.
Awesome. Yeah. Great to hear.
All right. Hey, I want to jump in right there because I don't think Scott's tooting his horn enough. So I want to jump on the bandwagon just because I've been an IL8 customer and then a Snap customer for a long time. So just really quick, if you guys are doing VoIP, networking, looking into surveillance, need televisions for display, if you want to buy a basic tester for your networking, I mean, really quick here, amplifiers, bulk wire, patched cables, UPSs, lightings, very, very nice racking and mounting, projectors and screens, speakers, if you're into that sort of thing, television, surveillance. I mean, they are a one-stop shop. And the difference between Snap and maybe if you're going through a distributor on a product you're not really sure about, or maybe trying to find something on Amazon, which may be more or less money. The nice thing about the Snap products is there's 3 things. 1, you always have a number to call and somebody in North Carolina is going to answer, which is awesome. 2, if you don't like a product you buy for them for 60 days, just send it back. There's not an argument. They might ask you why, but purely to know what you didn't like about it. And number 3, the quality is always going to be, I want to say at least better than average. I don't want to say average, but better than average. You might not be premium because you're paying $800 instead of $1,000, but it's always at least better than most. You don't have to worry about getting something that somebody in China made $1 million of and they just decided for 10 cents a piece that they were going to sell them. So I know I sound like a fanboy, and it's probably because I am. If you have any questions, you can email me directly, but I digress. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem, man. That's awesome. All right, Scott, so let's go ahead and go into, and I know one of the things we want to talk about, a lot of people may or may not have heard of Snap AV. And so kind of where is the company background and where did Snap AV get its start at, and how did they get here today?
Yeah, definitely. It's a great question. It's actually a really interesting story. I'll try to make it fairly quick, but we were started in Charlotte, North Carolina by a couple of guys who were in the audio video integration business. They were actually trying to install whole house audio systems, home theaters. Back then, 15 years ago, networks were just starting to come around. But they've noticed that, there's just so many challenges in any integration business, whether it be audio, video, or IT, or security, any of those, one little misplaced wire or bad connector can cripple a job. And that's just the technical side of it, right? There's also the business side of it, and managing vendors and suppliers and all that stuff. And and these guys really wanted to kind of go big. They believed that they could potentially even franchise this out and go nationally. And as they tried to do that, they had the same basic problems, that their suppliers were just not up to the snuff. Things weren't in stock. They were getting beat up on pricing because their customers could go online and Google the product and tell them that they could pay less for the products than they were offering it to them. And so there was all these pain points, and they said, there's a real opportunity here. Instead of being on the integrator side of the equation, maybe we should be on the manufacturing side of it, and do manufacturing in a way that serves the integrator better than anybody else in the industry. And for the home audio video industry, nobody was doing that whatsoever. And so it really revolutionized the space. But the only way for them to do that effectively was to create their own products, create their own brand names, control the distribution channel 100%, control the product support 100%, basically take control of all parts of that entire distribution channel. And so they started Snap AV. I don't know the exact year, to be honest with you. It was probably in 2006 or 2005. And they and so they created all their own brand names and controlled the distribution channel. And then it really grew like wildfire, to be honest. I was actually looking at some of the early days. We have a really neat tool internally where we can kind of Google metrics of any kind, buying behaviors, year-over-year growth, all that kind of stuff. And the first 8 years of year-over-year growth, we hit some of those years. If you throw out the first 2 or 3 years, because those were over 100%, because you're dealing with such small dollar numbers, but 80, 90, 70, 80, 70 were like the first 4, 5, 6, and 7. And so we just had a huge base that really appreciated the level of support that we were providing, the products that we were providing, all those things. And so it was an exciting time, and it still is. So that's really our mission, is to be the number one. We have a phrase internally that says, be the number one reason dealers succeed. And when we say dealers, that means any of our partners who are out in the field selling and installing the equipment that we provide. And we want to be the one-stop shop and the number one reason they succeed.
That is an awesome story, and it's great to hear. And you guys hold true to that. And I'm going to tell you a quick little story. John and I were hanging out a couple weekends ago, and John was having a problem. I say John because I was just there supporting him. And so
yeah, it's hard to find good help. I just want to interject.
I was all he had. So we're sitting there, and we had this problem, and we probably beat on it for, what would you say, John, an hour or more?
No. We beat on it for an hour, and then we beat on it an hour longer than we should have. So okay. 2 hours.
So 2 hours of time, and finally we get to the point where we know, hey, we probably need to make a phone call. So John calls up Snap, and basically they answered the phone, and I don't know, John, within 45 seconds, they said, hey, flip this bit, and we go, oh, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it was one of those uncheck that box moments.
And it was something that, and here's the thing, this is why it's good to have some good support, because it was something that logically in our minds made sense the way we were doing it, but according to the way the product was supposed to run, you needed to have this thing checked, and basically it would take that problem away. And so again, they knew it because they know these products like the back of their hand, and they're able to give you that information instantaneously. You don't have to go through, hey, can you turn that off and turn it on again? None of that stuff. Hey, here's the problem I'm having. And here's the thing. Also, what I noticed is John gave them all the information that they would need in order to solve the problem. Like he didn't just say, hey, I have a VLAN problem or whatever. He said, here's what it's doing. Here's what we did. Here's how we set it up. And 45 seconds, they were able to answer that question. So,
well, I'm going to pile on the support call too, because I just called them about another issue, and I won't go into the details of the aspects of it all, but it started off as an email, included a call, blah, blah, blah. And it ended up that I ended up talking to the product manager for the product I was having a problem with. So, if I was and I'm certainly not the biggest Snap AV customer, and it's not like they're talking about me in the boardroom. I'm just a little nobody down there that really likes Snap. But the product manager called me to discuss the issue by the time the day was over or whatever. So, you're not going to get that kind of attention from the other companies we like. Like, I'm a huge Dell vendor, but Michael's certainly not going to call me. So, it's just that kind of attention that I think they're really interested in, just like when we talked to Pulseway and all that, they're really interested in our success. And it says something about Scott. He's not like some sales guy. He's a bigwig over at Snap that he's taking Sunday afternoon out of his free time to talk to us. So, that's a big deal. And if anytime we can find partners like that make our job easier, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, we really do believe that, kind of phrasing we have internally is that the answers are in the field. So, instead of us talking amongst ourselves internally, we love to get out in the field and talk with our dealers, our partners, try to understand their problems. Before we develop any product, we make sure that we go in the field to investigate it. Some of you may have been part of our beta program, but we do a lot of beta testing with our products. So we truly do believe that the answers have to come from the field.
Very good. Very well said. All right. So, Scott, I want to go into a little bit more personal side for you. And I want to know where you basically got your start in technology and how did you get to the position you're in now?
Yeah, great question. For me, it goes way back. I'm 40 years old now, so I'm aging quickly, as all of us are.
Oh, but you're young.
Yeah, so I actually grew up pretty close to New Orleans in a town north of New Orleans. The town's name is Mandeville, and my neighbor was actually in the AV installation business. So he was installing speakers in people's homes, and so I got a summer job with him. I think my first day on the job, I accidentally dropped the wireless screwdriver in the tub full of water, and I thought I was going to lose my job as my first job. But you know how we all have those experiences on our first job. But I really fell in love with technology. I always had a love for it. I've got a very mechanical mind. And so I actually went to school at Texas A&M and got a mechanical engineering degree there. And then worked on designing cranes for a couple of years after that, but always had a real draw back to the technology side of the industry. So I actually started my own company in Houston, Texas, doing some installation work there. Had a quick move over to Florida after I got married. And then moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and worked for a large systems integrator installing for Bank of America downtown. So if you've ever been to Charlotte, you see the big Bank of America building with all the splines on top. I project managed and installed almost all the video conference systems in that building. And it was a good ride. And somewhere along that journey, Snap called me out of the blue and picked me up, and it was a really good move for me in my career. And I got in when Snap was about 4 or 5 years old, and have been with them for 8 years now. And it's been a super fun ride along there as well. And as we've tried to really explore these commercial markets more and get more into the IT and datacom side of the industry, it's been fun and challenging because we are, we had so many people going in one direction with residential AV type stuff, and the company desires and really is putting a lot of initiative around spinning off into new markets, new branches, and it's been fun to be a part of the effort to do that.
Awesome. Gig 'em, Scott. Gig 'em.
There you go.
Well, and I was telling Scott before the show too that for my own personal office, obviously I run my business out of here, but I also support the things in this household with wife and kids and all that. And network needs to be solid. And I've always used the consumer grade, routers and stuff like that. And I'm just going to say, if you're doing that in a business environment, shame on you. But I know a lot of times we're stuck with those things. But the thing is, with this equipment, since I've had it installed, and quite honestly, John gave me the first router I had, which was the 300, and I put it in, purchased a couple other switches from him, some managed switches, and I'm going to tell you, my network has never been as rock solid as it's been for the last few years since I've been using that. As a matter of fact, I'm about to upgrade to the.
And you're rocking the old stuff.
I know, and it's been rock solid, man. But I'm about to get a 310 you know, in this, it's time to upgrade. And plus, I like new shiny things, so it's all good.
Awesome. Yeah, so yeah, the networking category for us has just been a complete huge success. I mean, it's incredible to look at the numbers and the sell through rate and the feedback from the field. It's been an incredible ride for us. We launched that, I don't know, it's probably been 4 or 5 years ago now, and we're working on a Generation 2 product, as you mentioned there, with the routers, the 310 routers, just been launched. So yeah, it's been a super fun category for us.
Very cool. All right, so let's go ahead and start talking about some of the things. Obviously, we got the company background. We've got your background in what you've been doing over the last, you know, basically your entire life. And so now let's move into some of the product lines. And you know, you alluded to one of those in the beginning, and that was Wattbox. And obviously, that's a big one, and that kind of drew us in. You guys were spot on with basically giving those away at CompTIA 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was, and we were able to grab one of those. And even though I knew about it, I never used that product until I bought my own 12-port unit, and then gave the other one to John.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, the way we think about things at Snap, we've got over 28 categories. It's hard to keep track of them, but we call it 28 categories of products. And so when you think about a category of products, that's like power, networking, surveillance, racks, TV mounts, outdoor televisions. You know, I could go on and on. And so as we think about how do we manage 28 categories of products, we actually have kind of 3 VPs in our company who manage 3 sectors of that business. And those 3 sectors are really infrastructure is one of those sectors. And so that's everything from equipment, AV equipment racks or IT equipment racks and TV mounts, anything that's kind of bent metal, real structural, all the way down to cables, wire, patch panels. All those things are all infrastructure products for us. So that's one division of our company. The other one is connected products. And these are all of our intelligent products. And they all almost all of them roll up into our cloud management platform. And that cloud management platform is called Oversee. It's abbreviated OVRC. And it's kind of a platform that allows you to oversee all of your equipment at your job sites. And so connected product categories or networking, power, surveillance, those are really the big 3. And then the last kind of subdivision is our audio video product lines. And so that's maybe televisions, HDMI distribution equipment if you're doing any digital signage, all those things, projection screens, stuff you'd use for conference rooms, all that type of stuff. And so those are kind of the 3 big divisions. Obviously, the connected category gets the most attention because it is a little bit more innovative. You know, a lot of networking equipment. Everybody uses networking equipment, so it's a huge category for us. And then with the cloud management platform Oversee, that ties it all together. It gets a lot of fanfare as well because that's a free cloud management platform that comes with the purchase of the boxes. We don't charge anything for it. There are a couple of add-on ways to get even more capabilities from it by using a hub or moving to Oversee Pro. But it's a great product line as well.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that program in itself, that cloud management program, saves my bacon in more ways than one because things like, it's always important and to me, not as important for your customers to be up and running. When their network goes down, you can remotely, restart things and get it back up and running. But that's not as important as when the kids and the wife are going, hey, we've got no internet connection at home. That has to be fixed right away, now.
Well,
I'm going to buy, if I can tout the wheels of Overseer. I mean, all of us are jumping on the VoIP bandwagon. I'm going to leave all the basic stuff of Overseer sort of on the side, basically how you can control their routers and switches and all that. But sort of the magic for me is, I can log into a VoIP phone from Overseer. So I can go in if I need to do a SIP configuration or a change on a phone or get to the web interface on a phone, I can do that from Overseer. That's very cool. And the other thing that you can do is if you use their racks, they actually have a very cool rack building app. So you purchase your rack, if you're purchasing switches and all the power distribution and surge protection and all that, you can build your rack and actually see how your rack will look prior to purchasing everything to make sure that you've got all your U's correct and the size is right and all that kind of stuff. You have to be sign up for that. And I put the sign up link in the show notes and the chat as well. But that's a cool feature that's provided for free as well.
Yeah, definitely. kind of harken back to, you know, where we got started. One of the core values that we had from the beginning was building a website that was the best in the industry and allowed the integrator to kind of manage it as their customer portal in a lot of ways. All their purchasing flow through it, be able to do rack builder, surveillance estimators, and calculators. So we really built it out as an integrator tool. And to John's point, you know, rack builders is one of those components, but you can do all kinds of fun stuff. You can pre-build job lists and save them for your clients. You can export to Excel. You can import a spreadsheet from Excel into the website, and it'll automatically load your card up. So there's all kind of interesting tools that you can dig into.
That's really cool, and I've used several of those tools over the years. Just it makes your life easier, and again, everything all in one spot. And I know we'll probably touch on this a little bit later, but one of the other things too, and one of the things that I know John and I both appreciate, is the channel-friendly aspect. In other words, and Scott kind of alluded to this earlier, but your customers can't go to Amazon or Walmart or wherever and try to shop you because you've got the prices on basically what you're selling your whatever your units for, compared to the prices that are out there. So that's nice that they're not on both fronts, which with some vendors, you know, depending on AV and different things like that, not audio visual, but antivirus. Sometimes they'll, you know, they sell to the public and then they sell to you so you can sell to your customers, and it becomes this big mess. So having something that's channel friendly makes it really, really nice.
Yeah, we take that to extreme heart. I mean, we have someone dedicated in our company every morning that wakes up and goes on eBay and Craigslist and looks for our products to make sure that they aren't being sold online anywhere. We absolutely will not sign up another distributor of any kind. We are the only distributor. It's also a challenge, though, because the only place to find our products is to come to us. And so we have to do a fantastic job of making sure that people are aware of our products and where they're at. You know, you're not going to find our product at Cenex or Tech Data and then say, oh, well, I'll just buy it at Snap AV instead. You actually need to come to us to get the products and to get the benefits of them.
And I personally, for me, and John, I don't know what you would say, but I say that that's definitely something that I would prefer, having a vendor that's got everything that controls kind of that whole infrastructure, and you're able to go in and use that stuff as needed.
I would wholeheartedly agree, but there's a big difference between dealing with Snap and dealing with a Cinex or a DNH or somebody like that. Buying from Snap is almost like buying from Amazon. You know, it's frictionless. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's just easy. You already know what you're going to get. They have some really cool programs. Again, it sounds like I'm on the bandwagon here, but I guess I kind of am. You know, it's very clear. They have partner rewards levels. You know, if you meet a certain sales threshold, then they're always evaluating that. You know, you get some product discounts, free shipping, all that kind of magic. They just integrated a, what do you guys call it? Holy Snap?
Yep.
For Snap. There's a rewards program where you get points towards products and stuff like that. I mean, you can participate or not participate. You can, but the cool thing is, you know, it's just easy. We all buy stuff from Amazon, and I think we all appreciate the way Amazon Prime works. That if we have a problem with the product, we don't even have to talk to anybody. We just send it back. Now you do have to call somebody at Snap to get a return, but you know, like I had a 48 port switch go bad, PoE switch go bad, and I called on a Friday, talked to somebody, and this was literally maybe a 2-minute conversation. You know, hey, my 48 port won't boot up. It's not getting any power. You know, he asked me a couple questions, you know, purely on the basis probably to try to figure out maybe if I knew what went wrong, you know, just for his notes or something like that. And the next thing I knew, I had one on Saturday and I was rolling on a truck to get it on Saturday. So my customer was happy by Monday. So, you know, it's frictionless, which is, I kind of think, you know, versus dealing with some of the big distributors, you got to email a different RMA address. You got to wait for them to approve the RMA or return, blah, 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 blah. So it's just a lot easier.
Yeah, and just to throw in real quick, we did add the online returns feature pretty recently. So check that out in your My Account summaries. We're always trying to do that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's good.
I didn't even know about that. Very cool.
Yeah, we learn something new on these shows all the time, don't we? All right, so Scott, so let's go back to, we're talking about some of the product lines and how you guys have all these, you know, would you say 28 different basically product lines?
Yeah.
That's just massive. So what are some of the things that maybe, because obviously we talk about your networking gear all the time, the routers, the switches, and and all that kind of stuff. People know about those, and they know about overseas to a certain extent. What other types of things are in your mind when you look at your business is important for people to know about so that maybe they can have other offerings in their businesses as far as AV and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point. And that's really the reason that we had so much energy around making the transition into what we call, new markets or other markets, and that's really the push into the commercial market and the IT datacom market, because we really feel that we can actually help those vendors, those partners, and add value to their business with our approach and our product lines and our support levels. If you're thinking about doing a little bit more in your business, it may be surveillance, or it may be when your customer says, "Hey, can you take a look and can you do my conference room while you're pulling the networking cables? Can you hang a TV for me?" Those are all the things that we'd love to help you with. Surveillance is probably the number one transition category. It's just a great, easy thing to do. Hanging a surveillance camera, an IP surveillance camera especially, is not a whole lot different than hanging an access point. You really stick it in the ceiling, you give it a PoE connection, and then you configure it on the network switch. And we also have NVRs that allow you to record, and it can all be an in-house recording system. So you don't have to worry about having some sort of monitoring station that you have to patch them up with and get all that stuff configured. It's really just about throwing the NVR in the data room closet. This thing will record on a 30-day, 60-day cycle. And if anything happens around the building, it's really easy for your client to pull their own video for themselves and send an email to themselves with the video embedded in it. So it's a really great addition, and it's one of those things that once you install it, people really start to see the value of it. So if it's a quick serve restaurant or something else, you can have cameras on the parking lot or the dumpster, and it becomes more than just if somebody tries to steal something from me. It's really like you have full eyes and ears on your site at all times. So if somebody slips on a sidewalk, or somebody steals something, somewhere around the building, or an employee shows up late to work, you have video evidence of those things, and it's really empowering. Especially in today, it's almost expected to have video evidence of things. So I would say surveillance is a great category. Also, our conference room category, I actually have some personal interest around that one, because I really created that one from the ground up myself. But we've got a USB camera, just like the webcam that we're using today. But the difference is this camera is pan, tilt, and zoom, and it has a little shelf that comes in the box that allows you to mount it on the front wall, maybe underneath the TV or above the TV. And then once you plug it into a computer, you can have a dedicated mini PC behind the TV or under the conference room table. It allows you to basically use that USB camera as a web conferencing camera. And it's really the way things are going now. It used to be that to install video conferencing in a conference room, it would cost you $10,000, $20,000 for a Polycom or a Cisco Tandberg system. But now you can get a camera like we have that's a USB camera, plug it into a mini computer that's a couple $100, and you can literally have a video conference system for around $1,000. And that empowers the integrator to not just put one video conference system in their user's building, but to have 5 or 6 in the building. And then people really start to adopt video as a real means for making their business run smoothly and having employees that are out of the office and working with remote offices. So it's a really good category to be in as well. So super easy to get going in that one as well.
That's awesome. And that's something that a lot of times I don't think people think about that, but there are businesses out there, especially with us being a worldwide culture now, that have to do, video conferencing with companies and maybe things that are overseas and stuff like that. So definitely one of those things that, Skype and all that kind of stuff is real nice nowadays. But the reality is sometimes you need bigger systems in place, and for $1,000, I mean that's inexpensive in today's day and age for that type of thing.
And I kind of wanted to address that from the point of view too, though, is we're always focusing we're always saying that you should focus what you're good at, that you maybe shouldn't be the guy that does the camera system, or you shouldn't be the guy because you maybe want a partner to do that. But there are a lot of jobs where your customers are coming to you where they say, hey, we need 1 or 2 cameras, or we need this in the conference room. And Snap kind of provides those solutions where it's not out of our realm because you're not reinventing the wheel. You know, you're already doing the IP, so you know that. You're already doing the networking, so you know that. So it's very easy to integrate a pan-tilt zoom camera in the conference room that just is connected via IP. So why wouldn't you do that? Why would you hand off that money to someone else when you have a partner? Plus, even on your first one, you can call support and they'll help you with it.
That's awesome. Very
Yep.
good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you guys are in a great position owning the network to add these things to your portfolio to make it easy. I can tell you it's certainly easier than being on the AV side and trying to get the IT guy to open up firewall policies and all that kind of stuff. It's hard, you know. So
oh, we could talk about the routers that you guys sell and how that's all integrated with pretty much a touch of a button. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I have a question from the chat, if I could, Scott. They're asking if there's any sort of trade-in or upgrade program, like if somebody was going to come to you and say, "Hey, I've got a Spico system, or I've got these other branded TrendNet switches or routers or something." Do you guys have any sort of program where we said, you know, in volume they could trade up to go to the Snap or Arachnus or other products? Is there a trade-in program?
Interesting. No, we don't currently have a trade-in program. We do have a lot of great incentive packages for new dealers. If you haven't done business with us before, we've got some really interesting, rich offers. But a trade-in program is not something we have specifically, but love to hear more about what the opportunity is and see if we can make something work. But we're a small enough company to where we can practically make anything on the fly. So don't ever write us off. You know, just let us know what you're looking for.
Well, I'll add on top of that, I know like my salesperson is Kelly, so I know I could go to her and say, "Hey, I'm going to buy a couple switches and all that. They're TrendNet. My customer needs to trade. I want to trade over to them. Is there anything?" And you know, if she can't answer it, she can go to somebody and get me an answer and maybe get me some discount. She's done that before, so
yeah, definitely.
it's not an official trade-in program there, but Adam, but I know if you called and talked to your sales rep, they do something.
Yep. Yeah, we've got a lot of unofficial things.
Well, and again, that's nice dealing with a company like yours because you're able to do those types of things where, hey, you know, we want you guys to be in business, so obviously we want to pay you money, but at the same time we want to support our customers, and you know, customers always balk on price, and so you guys make it very easy to be able to do that, where we can take care of the customer. You guys are making money, we're making money, and everybody's happy all the way from, you know, top to bottom.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, easy is our number one word. If we survey all of our dealers and partners, and there's a big word chart, we look at these and big board meetings. The word easy is like gigantic in the middle, and everything else is small around it. It's really interesting to see how that stuff plays out.
That's what I'm talking about. I love easy, especially at my age. I get tired of having to relearn new things. Told my wife the other day, I said, you know, I love learning new things and I hate learning new things. I said, isn't that kind of weird? She's like, no.
As long as it's something you want to learn, right? Yeah.
Right. Even when it's something I want to learn it, you still got to take the time to learn it. So I like easy personally. All right, let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and have more of this great conversation. Our show today is brought to you by FreshBooks. Small business owners, it's time to be honest about how you feel when dealing with your day-to-day admin work. Admit it, you can't stand it. It's a total grind. Yes, it is. Truth is, over 5 million small business owners felt exactly the same way until they discovered FreshBooks. FreshBooks is the dead simple cloud accounting software that's transforming how small businesses handle their paperwork. And who likes handling their paperwork? Nobody. All right, if you want to do things like invoicing, you can use FreshBooks to create and send an invoice. It literally takes about 30 seconds. There's no formulas or formatting, just perfectly crafted invoices every time. Get out of that Excel spreadsheet and use something simple. Your clients can pay you online, which often means you end up getting paid a lot faster. And who doesn't like getting paid faster? Yeah, don't raise your hand. Okay, so there's also a super handy deposit feature so you can invoice for a payment up front when you're kicking off a project. Again, get all that money for that hardware up front so you can make your Snap AV order and you know, get that stuff shipped over there real quick. All right, so FreshBooks can even show you whether or not a client has looked into the invoice you've emailed. Yeah. Hey, did you get that email with that invoice I sent you? What email?
What invoice, Jeff? What invoice? What are you talking about?
Exactly. The one you opened 5 times yesterday. Oh, that invoice. Yes, that one. So, yeah, can you go ahead and pay that, please? This is only a fraction of what FreshBooks can do for you. You owe it to yourself to feel the full effects of FreshBooks on you and your small business. For a 30-day free trial, just go to freshbooks.com/podnuts. Enter podnuts in the How Did You Hear About Us section. All right, let's go ahead and go back into what we were talking about, and that is obviously everything from networking to AV and everything in between.
Hey, Scott, will you confirm something for me? Another question in the chat was NFR units and returning anything, returning units. I know there's a nice discount for NFR units that we can use for ourselves, and I think that covers the whole product realm. And if I'm not mistaken, it's 60 days to return anything.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 60 days, no questions asked is our policy. And we have an NFR program. You can see the details on our site. It depends on the category, but most of it's around 50% off. Which basically is pretty close to our cost on the product. And so, and then I think you can get it once a year, something like that. But full details on the website under the programs tab, I believe.
And John, I know, is putting together a phenomenal list of show notes. So we will definitely have all the links for you guys to be able to do that. And I'm going to tell you right now, you should be eating your own dog food. And it was 60 days. Anybody can take 60 days to try a product or service out and see if it's going to work for them. And I'm telling you right now, you'll be caught with it like the rest of us, and you'll go, "Wow, these are great products. They just work." And yeah, I'm going to use those from now on. So I know that's why they do it, because they stand behind their products. And again, it sounds like I'm a fanboy too, and I am. Um, I love the Snap AV products and have been using them for a few years now, and they just work.
And keep in mind on some of the links that guys and gals that I'm putting in there, you may need to be a Snap AV customer and log in to get to them. But I am going to put in links, generic links to like their products, a link to the sign up page, which you should do no matter what, link to an overview on Snap AV, and I will also put a link into under their programs so that you can see everything that you get if you do sign up.
And, you know, this brings up a good point, because this just happened to me the other day. I was basically, somebody was having network issues at their residential home, and they actually run a business out of there, and they do webinars. And they were getting this lag that was probably 20 minutes into their webinar. They get to this point where they needed to make this point, and they got this. All of a sudden, people were going, "Hey, we didn't hear you." Everything kind of stopped for a second. So I logged in on this computer and was doing some cleanup on it and shutting some things off. But with that being said, I said, "Hey," I said, "listen," I said, "I don't, even for residential users, I do not recommend your regular off-the-shelf stuff anymore." I said, "I use this company, Snap AV, and their Arachnus products, and that is what I recommend, even for the residential home, because it just works. It's solid. I've got gamers here, including myself, video watchers. We put a lot of bandwidth, and nothing ever chokes. I'm telling you, it's amazing." And so what I did was I sent him over to the Snap AV website to just, he wanted to see what they look like. Okay, no big deal. Well, he was able to do that, but obviously there's no pricing. I said, "All right, hold on. Let me go in and I'll look at my pricing and let you know, hey, here's what it's going to cost you for me helping you out." And so I was able to give them the prices, but they don't have access to that because they're not a reseller. And I said, "Hey, no problem. You want me to order this stuff, and we'll get it put in a week or so." And so it's nice to be able to do that stuff, because they do, Snap AV does have a presence on the web. They're just not giving away all their secrets, because they're helping us as the reseller out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, protected pricing is huge, as I mentioned, and but at the same token, becoming a partner with us is super easy. We try to make it as simple as possible. All we ask for is that we basically go on your website and see if you're a legitimate business, or if you can provide some invoices to us to show us that you're a legitimate business. We just simply don't want the end customer coming to us and trying to get pricing for the quote that you guys just gave them. So we try to filter all that out to make sure that you're fully protected. Whenever you hand that quote over to your customer, they have no clue what you're paying for it, and the value that you're providing is the overall package of what you're providing to them, not the individual product cost. So we just want to make sure that's protected for you guys.
Absolutely, and that is nice.
And the other thing that they kind of do for us dealers or IT guys here is they do have a whole training section on their website. that if you haven't done any VLANing, it's a great place to start, especially with their products. If you don't know anything about link aggregation or PoE or things like that, they have some really great, not 5-hour videos, that have the attention span that I can pay attention to, and they demonstrate what's happening in their products. But, the great thing about it is it's pretty, you can apply it, or it's applicable to, the whole breadth of networking products, and the tips that they give you. So, they're kind of investing in, obviously, again, back to what Scott said, our success with their products equals a win for them as well.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, John,
definitely.
what were you saying?
Yes. Yeah, and I wonder why I'm on this show.
Exactly. Right back at you. All right. So, because everybody loves you, John. That's why. All right. So I'm sorry, Scott, what were you going to say?
Oh no, that's a good point. We've always held video super close as far as the importance at our company. From day one, we've had a dedicated kind of video guy. He's Nick. You've probably seen him on some of the videos, but he's always been our video guy, and he kind of grew up in the space as an integrator as well. And every product release, we have at least one video, if not more. So with over 3,000 products, we've got, I would say, over 5,000 videos on our site now, and now we have Snap University, is what John was alluding to, and we've really built that from the ground up to cover all the basics of the more complex categories: networking, surveillance, all that, and we're continually adding to that every day. That's what we do in Charlotte, North Carolina, is work on that stuff all day, every day. So lots of good training opportunities and videos to learn about products.
Very cool. Yeah, it's good to have that education and a good, solid support too. So all that stuff definitely helps. Again, it probably, John, if you'd watch a couple of those videos beforehand, probably could have saved us a couple hours, but it's all right.
Jeff, you say I can't swear on the show, so we'll wait till after the show for me to address your conversation.
It's funny because it's funny and not funny, but quite honestly, to get a company that will actually do what they say they're going to do is not as common nowadays. And so it's nice to have that, where you have the ability to reach out and get a quick answer and get your problem solved. Where else are you going to do that? If you miss something, when they give you your order through the McDonald's window, they don't really care. You didn't order that.
Yeah, I want to even take this back to a non-Snap level and just all that, that a lot of us forget, and then I think a lot of techs forget that, once you get something up and working, guys and gals, you're only 10% done. I mean, you have to go in and make sure the settings are correct, make sure that you've met your compliance needs, that you have security in mind, that you have privacy in mind, that you have availability in mind, that you have a way that you're keeping an eye on the products so that when they need updated, meaning firmware or some other thing involved, or that product reaches end of life and may not be getting firmware updates anymore, that you need to upgrade that product. So, getting something working, used to be the success for trunk slammers that we all used to be. That's not enough anymore. It simply isn't. You have to move through everything that I just said and then document and have that documentation and keep that documentation and update that documentation. So anything that we can find to help with that, anything that we can do to understand that, from a broader perspective, from the full view of what we're doing for our business clients and even home clients now. I don't do a whole lot of that, but that's even important for home, because if somebody breached a home network and they're in there and watching your kids, your wife, their kids, their wife, you undress, do whatever they're doing on that home network. I mean, if that comes back to you, that's a big deal. So at least if it happened and you had the proper documentation and you can show that you were watching and that you recommended to the customer that they should do this, it's a little bit of CYA, but it's a little bit of just doing the right thing.
Well said, John. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right. So, Scott, is there anything in your product lineup or anything we have not touched on today as far as the company? I mean, obviously, we've talked about all of the wonderful benefits and the things that you guys have, but is there anything else that we haven't touched on that somebody might want to know about what you guys have available, or any other programs that we haven't touched on at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we can go a little bit deeper on the Wattbox and the Oversee product as well. I think that's something that we feel that every dealer should experience at some level. If you do nothing else, if you've never heard of with us, I would say get a 2 or a 3 outlet Wattbox, and get it plugged in, and then go to the Oversee cloud management platform. Actually anybody can start an Oversee account today. All you really need is an email address. But once you get that set up, you get your Wattbox in the mail and plugged in, you can actually simply enter the MAC address and serial number into the cloud platform. You can set up your user customer account. So you can say, okay, well, this is the Wattbox at my home, if you're at your home or at my office or whatever. And then it'll adopt it into that location. And then once you have it adopted into that location, you can start the configuration. You can have it reboot things automatically. One of the things that I like to do is put them on your modem and your router. You can have it pinging your WAN address. Usually, I think our defaults are like Amazon, Yahoo, and Google.com, and say, okay, if all 3 of those fail, then go ahead and reboot the modem, and then wait 2 minutes, and then reboot the router. And all that can be automated, so that once you leave the job site, if you lose the WAN connection, you're pretty much hosed, right? So that's the only hope you got, is to leave a Wattbox behind and have it monitoring the connection for you at all times. And then on top of that, you can layer in the scheduled reboots. And then we even have we have what we call a hardwired trigger button, to where you can actually wire a button in, so where you can mount this button outside of the closet or wherever you want to mount it, and that's kind of your get out of jail free for your customer. So they can go and press that button if anything's not working, and you can program it to reboot certain outlets in the rack, and you can just tell it whatever you want it to do that are the most common failure points. In a similar way, we even have a end user app where your end user can download this app. You can go into your part of Oversee and program buttons. You can actually build the UI, give them buttons that say things like restore my internet connection, or reboot my Wi-Fi service, or reboot my VoIP system. And when they press that button, you actually tell it what outlets on the Wattbox to reboot on the back end, and create those kind of macros to do things in an intelligent way for your customers. So it's just an extremely powerful platform. As I mentioned before, everything we did was to build it to support the integrator, to support the dealer. And so you'll see that as you use it, that we're really trying to empower you to be more successful, to avoid costly service calls, to put more money in your pocket with the products you sell. And so that's a great way to get started. And then once you started with Wattbox, then it's a natural transition to go over to Arachnus. You'll see a lot of the same stuff. You'll see the PoE ports being able to be rebooted from the cloud. Some of the Wi-Fi setup happen automatically. We have it tied in with our routers. And then surveillance is a lot of the same way. Once you get those IP cameras plugged in, they'll naturally show up in the cloud. You can do some of the configuration there, even get some screenshots. We call them snapshots in the cloud as well of the cameras. So all kinds of really neat things. And it even goes into our amplifiers. If you're doing background audio for your customer, you can see the audio levels and see if a signal is playing or not playing. So it kind of goes on and on. And again, it's all free. So a great way to get started with the cloud platform.
That is awesome.
I actually have a great story about the PoE switches and the power on, power off. I had a location. One of my largest customers had a problem with their VoIP system. My VoIP provider was on site. I was at a volleyball game, my daughter's volleyball game, about a year ago when she was still in high school. Kyle from my VoIP provider called me and said, "Hey, this room is locked. We can't get in to this area. We need to reboot the phones." And I said, "Hang on a second." So I pulled up my cell phone, logged into Overseer, logged into the switch, hit a couple buttons, rebooted not the switch, I rebooted the individual ports on the smart switch. Rebooted the phones, said thank you very much, cheered a little bit, cheered myself a little bit for being so awesome, gave a high five to Overseer, and it was that easy. That's the kind of thing that, we talked about the Pulseway remote app when they were on. We talked about the Overseer remote app. That's a little bit of magic you get from those.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really neat product, and we hear stories all the time about dealers being in attics and their customer calling them, and they can just swipe over to the Oversee app, reboot a device, customer cheers, and they can get back to work. And it's game changing when you're a 1 or a 2 man shop where you've got to run everything to be able to do that. And for me personally, like I say, at a minimum, get one on your parents at your parents' house. We've all got parents who bug us about their network not being working right. And I actually installed my parents' system, or had someone install it, but I made sure it was chock full of our products just so that I could reboot it. And my dad always calls me and asks me to do something. And he, how did you do that? How did you fix that? Like, I couldn't have fixed that, and I'm here on site. How do you even fix it like that? So it's a really neat product. One of the things I did want to mention also was the Oversee Pro, as we call it. We have a device called a hub, and once you put that device on the LAN, the local area network, it'll scan the LAN and find all the devices, whether they're Snap AV devices or other third-party devices, and then we'll actually serve up the local UI, that device, to the cloud. And so while you can manage the Watt box and our surveillance equipment and all that stuff, you also can manage these third-party devices, whether it be a Dell switch or a Aris modem or any of those things, and you can pull up the local UI. And that's where the real magic happens for me, because having visibility to every device on the network, knowing whether it's online or offline, getting a notification if one of those devices falls offline, and then being able to go into the local UI. I can't tell you how many times I've used that just with friends and family to help them out.
I see a little magic with that. You hit 2 hotspots right there, Scott. One with solo tech. I mean, if I'm a solo tech managing all my endpoints, that's huge. Talking about somebody being an addict, or like I was at a volleyball game and I was able to help. The other important thing I think that Overseer would come into play is, even if you are, let's say you're managing techs, and a tech says, okay, the printer's installed, blah, 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 and if it was on an Overseer network, you as a manager could log into Overseer, see that printer, hit the configuration, verify it in a couple seconds, boom, you're done. And then you could dismiss that tech and say, carry on, because you have all the documentation. You could get everything you need from Overseer from that web device. There's even a little bit of magic you can do in Overseer to get an RDP connection to a device if you want. So, I mean, that is very cool. So I think it works for both solo tech, or even if you're managing techs, it gives you a lot of control and visibility into either one, if you need to verify what they're saying, or 2, you could dismiss them and you could handle the documentation remotely.
Yep. Some people have told us it's a kind of a lightweight RMM tool in a lot of ways. They're using it for, you get to see the IP address of every device on the network. You can see the WAN address. You can see, packet information, devices being online or offline, and then the proactive management side of it has really been empowering to our dealers, because it's so much a more comfortable conversation when you call your end customer and say, hey, I noticed there's something wrong with your site, because you got a notification of something falling offline, rather than them calling you after they've been upset and had to troubleshoot it themselves. I think it's really empowering for dealers.
And I like that thing about, John, did you know about the red button?
I did know about the red button, but I haven't used the red button. But the more I think about it, maybe.
I'm thinking, so here's what I'm thinking in my head, and this just went, I'm going, okay, having a red button, that would be really, really cool, but I wouldn't just want it sitting there out in the open. So I'm thinking they make these little acrylic cases that you can actually lock. You could put the red button inside that acrylic case, get only whoever the main person at that place is.
So you need the husband and the wife to have keys to open the acrylic box too at the exact same time.
But no, that's awesome, because how many times do you have somebody, hey, can you go unplug the what? Where's that? It's in the closet. It's the one with.
Yeah.
Well, there's also a little bit in Overseer where you can share access to a particular location with another integrator. So like, I don't do any Control 4 or anything like that, but I do have a couple of customers. I don't do any home customers, but I do work for my company owners at their homes. So they might have Control 4 at home. So the idea is that I work with a Control 4 vendor, and both myself and that other vendor have access to Overseer, so we can both manage all the products for my customer. So there is sharing in there as well.
Very nice.
Yep.
And the neat thing about Overseer is the way that I look at it, even though everything we've discussed, and we haven't really talked about everything or even close to everything that it does, I still feel, and from the improvements that I see that come on a pretty regular basis, that it's still in its infancy. That there's I mean, it gets me excited to think about it. And my only fear is that pretty soon they could charge us $1,000 a month, and it would probably still be worth it. There's a lot of possibilities there. I mean, and it's just it's invaluable for my business at this point, is what I would say.
And
Yeah.
now, Scott, I want to ask you too. Now, originally you had the Overseer that you could, or Oversee Pro that you could attach to the network to get you all that functionality. Now, the new routers you have, that's actually integrated into that router now, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we still sell the Pro Hub, as we call it, is the device that scans the network. But we've basically embedded that functionality in our new router line to where you don't have to buy the Pro Hub, and you don't there's no up cost at all for making your location a Pro location. And again, the Pro location really gives you that ability to serve up the local UI of any device straight to the cloud, see every device on the network. So yeah, if you install one of our new 110 or 310 routers, you'll get that Pro capability right out of the box for no additional cost.
That is awesome. So, yeah,
Yeah.
here's the sad thing about this. We all like to do projects and things, even on our own personal network. So, John, just from this conversation today, I'm already seeing like 3 different projects I got to get into just on my own home when it comes to surveillance, conferencing.
I told you I'd come and help you.
I know.
Told you I'd come and help you. I know you need some hand holding, so I'm there for you, baby. I'm there for you.
Wait, maybe you can do it remotely. No.
If you have Overseer, we could probably work that out. But then you won't have to buy me dinner, which is the part I like.
That's true. That's true. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to take one more quick break, and then I want you, Scott, gather any other thoughts and stuff that you have, anything we haven't talked about, and go ahead and we'll kind of bring all that stuff together, and we'll get a chance to get on out of here. But before we do that, if you'd like to support this show and what we're doing here, I encourage you to go to patreon.com/computer repair podcast. And what that will get you is it's basically $1 a show. That's what we're asking for. It's $4 or $5 a month. Skip your mocha latte, whatever, whatever, and you can basically afford that. And what it does is it helps network out here as far as being able to replace equipment, things that we do, things that we buy for this particular podcast, which makes my life easier, which makes it easier to bring the content out to you, which hopefully everyone is getting something out of that.
But wait, there's more.
There is more. And John, go ahead and tell them what that more is.
With your small token pledge to the Computer Repair Podcast, not only do you get the benefit of listening to Jeff and myself and great guests like Scott, you also get access to the ultra secret Computer Repair Podcast group on Facebook. Jeff?
And what that does is it gives you a safe place, no matter how new or old you are in the business. There's a lot of smart individuals in there. And I'm just going to say this. I'm listening to a lot of different tech podcasts, and there's a lot of good tech podcasts out there. And maybe one day we can bring a list of those out. But the reality is I'm listening to these podcasts, and I'm also reading the things in our Facebook group. And what I've discovered after the last probably month or so, I've been listening to some of these, some of the different MSP podcasts and whatnot, is that we've got very, very smart, intelligent individuals in our group, because there's a lot of good information that comes out of that group. And it's a safe place to get information because you don't have let me answer this question with a question in a bad sense. In other words, or bring up a side topic that has nothing to do with the question that was asked. You know what's nice about this group? When somebody asks a question, the people that don't have an answer, guess what they do? Nothing, which is good. And the people that do have an answer, which there's a lot of them, they'll pipe in with their answer and make it a nice place that you can go. So that's what we want to provide to you, and that's what the cost of, $1 per show gets you.
The great thing about the group is I can ask a dumb question. I asked a dumb question about tech backpacks, and there must have been 30 responses to that, and we went round and round to everybody's favorites, to the famous, I actually bought this Chinese off-brand Your Pack backpack, which I have fallen in love with, and I put the link out there. So really, it's just about paying it forward and all that sort of thing. And we get questions about computer recycling, about networking vendors, about UTM devices, about dealing with difficult contacts. We've had somebody post in there about trademark, getting a letter from somebody else to say, hey, you're using my business name, and there's all sorts of things in there, and how to make your favorite mixed drink to surviving and not becoming an addict due to cybersecurity issues. So, so, I mean, it's just a fun place to be, and it's a great place to be. And, I learned I think I learned something every time somebody posts something. I mean, it's a pretty big thing to say, and I'm not trying to sell it or anything, but literally it's interesting what other people think of that you're not thinking about, and what they're considering, and then you're like, oh crap, I should be considering that too. I never thought about that, even though I've been doing this longer than probably everybody else in the group, because I'm almost as old as you, Jeff. And that's right. But it's just a great place to go.
No, it's real nice. And not only that, we don't have any bad actors, because if we do, John and Paco have the ability to basically kick you out straight away, and there's no take backs. It is what it is. So
I'm a little more patient than Paco, but Paco, he will bring the hammer.
Yes,
that's just the way it is.
So anyways, definitely go over to patreon.com/computer repair podcast to do that. And we appreciate it. And to be honest with you, we have 113 people in that secret Facebook group that actually, pays money. And I, quite honestly, personally, I never thought that we would have anywhere near 100. So
when are we renegotiating my contract on my payments for this show?
We do that every week, and we're going to add to the 0 with another 0, and it's
as long as I get another 0 every week, I'm happy.
There you go. One of these days we need to put a number in front of that. All right.
Well, 0.1.
Yeah.
0.001.
There you go.
Okay, I'm in.
Well, we appreciate everyone, all our Patreon supporters, for your continued support. We really thank you for doing that. And like I said, if equipment breaks down or somebody needs a microphone or something like that, we're able to do those types of things, and it's not a hardship out of my personal wallet, which makes it nice. All right, Scott. So you've got the floor for the last few minutes here. And is there anything that you wanted to bring up? I know we had talked about some of the basically becoming a reseller, and maybe you can kind of go over some of the things there, or anything else that we haven't touched on at this point.
Yeah, appreciate it. I mean, this has been a great show. I really want to thank you guys for what you're doing here. It's awesome service. But yeah, anyone who's a dealer in the business, an integrator, go to our website, snapav.com. Become a partner link is at the top. I think it says sign up. And we'd love to have you be a part of the fold. I mean, you're supporting a U.S. based company here in Charlotte, North Carolina. We pride ourselves, as we've mentioned a bunch of times, in the service and support that we provide. As far as the products go, I think John did a good job of highlighting that. We're not trying to be a Meraki replacement for your business, or even a Dell or an HP replacement. We really focus on the SMB part of the industry. And where you could really use a free cloud management platform to support your clients. I think it's really empowering once you experience it. And then we're so much more than just the connected product categories. Our storage solutions are some of the most innovative in the industry. We've got in-wall storage solutions. Some of these are hard to visualize, but I encourage you to go on the website and check them out. Behind the TV solutions that allow you to make a cutout in the studs of a wall and bury stuff in the wall when you're having a hard time putting gear somewhere. We have some behind the TV storage solutions that allow you to put all your gear behind a TV. We've got some up to 40 inches tall that allow you to, structure wiring cans, all that kind of stuff. So really innovative devices allow you to even drop the watt box in the bottom so it doesn't take up any space in the can. We've got some large customers that sell these by the thousands per month, watt boxes and in-wall storage solutions. Some of these are being used for MDUs, multi-dwelling units, putting network between two apartment locations and giving Wi-Fi to the whole area. So some really neat things that you can do with some of the things that we offer. I think it's just a lot of this gets lost in the shuffle because we do so much, both from a service perspective and a website perspective, a product perspective. It takes a while to really understand all of what we do. But the kind of the great things are deep in those corners. So I encourage you to go and seek those out and find those. And you can do that on our website. And then our sales team is always waiting for calls and calling out to other people as well. Also, my information, I'm sure you guys will share it. I'd love to get in touch with anybody afterwards, after the show. Happy to talk through any solutions. I do a lot of system designs even from my desk, talking with dealers like, hey, you'll need this camera over here and this microphone system to make that work for you. And so we do a lot of that, even at the leadership level. So we love doing that stuff as well. So again, thank you for letting me be on the show.
Well, thanks for coming on the show and sharing with us. I've learned a ton, and I've learned that you're going to cost me a lot of money this year. But what I would really encourage people to do is I would encourage you to go out, sign up, and you're not going to get anything better as far as a 60-day return policy. Hey, bring that stuff home, have them ship it to you, put it on your network, just try it out and see if that's going to help. Or, if you're feeling kind of froggy, yeah, you could probably take a test customer and put some of that when they need to replace their equipment and start putting some of that stuff on there. But you can't, it doesn't get any better than this as far as the return policy, the one-to-one touch that you're going to get from the company, the support, and all the things that's going to save you time and money, because let's face it, even like John said, time is money. And so you need to have the ability to be able to do that out there. So, John, any lasting thoughts from you?
Well, a couple things that we should probably do, and we probably should have done on our Pulseway show and on this show, to say that, we're not getting any financial return from Snap AV or Pulseway or anybody else, because it kind of sounds like we're doing a commercial here, but I mean, we just have some realistic or some genuine love for the companies. The chat room has just pointed out to me that I am actually paying to be on the show with my CRP group and Patreon thing. So we might need to bring that discussion.
So bad.
And so I'm not sure what value I'm bringing now that I'm paying to be here, but hopefully a little bit. And yeah, every day,
baby. Play to pay.
Pay to play, baby. Pay to play. Scott, thanks for being here. I mean, as a Snap AV guy and a guy that really depends on your products to make a lot of my business and my customers' businesses run, I appreciate your time this week. That's huge. And yeah, every day is perfection. So let's keep, we are IT. Let's keep rolling.
All right. Awesome, man. Appreciate it. And yes, here's the thing. If you guys know, I mean, obviously a lot of you personally know John and myself, and like, and trust us. We just bring you the stuff that we actually believe in, and we either know somebody that's personally using it or we use it ourselves. So that's why we bring you these vendors on the show. We're not just here. We want to give that. My goal in this podcast has always been to bring the IT business owners and the vendors together in a way that makes sense, so that you can have this symbiotic relationship. Yes, I just used a big word. And therefore,
spell it.
Yeah, I can't spell it. Okay. And so, but you've got this relationship that's a win-win, and that's what we always look for when it comes to businesses. And you're not going to get this type of thing from off the store shelf, Amazon, all that kind of stuff. So, start doing things in your business that's going to obviously make sense and make your life a lot easier, and it'll help just to try the product out. So yes, we do. It sounds like a show, but it's not. We actually do believe in the product, and John and myself both use the product, so we're a testament to that. All right.
Yeah, keep in mind that, I think it's important to reaffirm that the only people that are paying us is when you do a paid ad. Maybe someday Snap will be there, maybe someday Pulseway, or any vendor we have.
Yes.
That's how who's paying us. So our love for Snap is genuine here a little bit. The other thing I want to do is challenge everybody that's in the chat room today to poke everybody else to get in the chat room. Only from this specific point of view that you guys had some great questions today that we were able to send to Scott. So if you have questions that you want to talk to the vendors about, be here on Sunday and throw them in the chat. That's huge. I understand if you can't make it on a Sunday, make sure you get an email to Jeff for any question you might want to. Jeff gets the post in the CRP and other places as soon as possible. about who's going to be on the show. So I think that's really big too. And with that said, I mean, we've had Pulseway on, we've had Snap on, we've had some really great vendors recently. But we got some really great ones coming, guys. So I think, stay tuned. I'm really excited about some other partners that we're going to have on soon. So thanks for listening, and thanks for being in the chat.
And I do want to give a shout out now that John brought all that up, because that is good. And I want to thank not only John, but also Paco LeBron for bringing a lot of these vendors, because here's the deal. If it was up to me, there's only so many hours in a day, and it probably wouldn't get done, even though this has been my passion and what I want to do. And I know this is kind of going on long, but the reality is we want to bring this information to you. So it just makes sense to put that information in there. And so anyways, I appreciate what John's done to reach out to vendors. I appreciate what Paco's done. And there's been other people in the community who've reached out, and we've kind of made these relationships come together, which is what this show is all about. It's what we do. So I appreciate everyone for that.
And I'm going to pile on one last thing. Yeah, we are going long today.
We are, baby.
Scott, thanks for hanging in there, brother. The other thing is if you guys have a vendor you want us to poke, and you have a contact at that vendor that you're not afraid for us to use their name, your favorite AV, your favorite UTM provider, your favorite service provider, your favorite distie, your favorite sales rep at that distie, your favorite product, whatever it is, shoot Paco, shoot myself, shoot someone an email. Because the whole idea behind this show is discovery. I mean, or at least, hopefully you're listening to this and you're like, Snap who? Because that's the value we bring to Snap. I mean, I'm not going to buy any more from Snap from this show, because I already buy pretty much everything I can from Snap. So, but the idea is to introduce you to a trusted vendor. And if you have one that Jeff doesn't know about, Paco doesn't know about, I don't know about, or anybody that listens doesn't know about, I mean, literally, that's why we're here. So let us know.
Well said. And I'm not going to say anything more, except come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnets.com/CRP Live. Join in on a conversation by hanging out in the chat room, where there's some good side discussions going on. You can also send an email to podnuts@podnuts.com, or leave a voicemail at 734-335-1000, and we will play that on the show. And we will, when the shows are a little bit shorter, we tend to read more emails. Your email will always get right on the show unless you specify not. All right. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on the Computer Repair Podcast.